Something along those lines. I'll
And
piggyback
so
on.
0 to 10, that's what I remember consuming on television. What about you, Micah?
I would say you hit it this exact same, except Bugs Bunny and
Oh yeah.
Looney Tunes were probably a big influence on what I, just the ideas in my head. Bugs Bunny especially. Uh, I think Bugs Bunny too back in the day was not PC at all. He was very. If you look back at some of the ones when they had a lot of World War II themed ones with.
Yeah.
Remember the little gremlins, and they were.
I do remember that kind of.
So they had a lot of non-PC stuff. If you watch anything from the '70s, you're like, holy cow! They're all super violent and they're all
Kind of racial.
Yeah, I'm sure there was stuff you wouldn't think of as being okay now, but back then it wasn't. It was looked at different.
Yeah, for sure.
But Bugs Bunny was really this a prankster, and he was always going against. He was always making trouble. Like he was a troublemaker, and he would always get away with it.
You kind of remind me a little of Bugs Bunny a little bit.
I probably identify with him.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, you don't get in a whole lot of trouble. Like they're never throwing you in jail. But on the other hand,
Could be.
You're playing with a little fire here and there. But more just like fire, mental fire.
Mental fire.
Mental fire.
Yeah. All right. So what about from 10 to 20, John?
10 to 20. So at that point, I really 10 to 20. What did I watch? I started
MTV?
watching Seinfeld. I watched MTV.
Yeah.
Some of the first music I like, In Excess. I remember.
Oh,
I
yeah.
need you tonight.
Oh man.
I'm not. And George Michael. Faith, the faith, the faith. So I loved watching MTV. What else? Like I remember watching Growing Pains.
With I forget his name. Kurt Cameron.
Yeah,
And he's
that's
like
him.
he's like a born again Christian now.
Yeah,
isn't he?
he's like a religious zealot. If that's what a zealot is. Just
Totally is.
so is his sister.
Is he? Is his sister hot though?
No, I bet Candace Cameron.
I don't remember Candace Cameron. I didn't really watch Growing Pains. I didn't watch.
She's on the far right on The View.
it. Really.
Oh yeah, she's
She
super.
hot?
Yeah, hotter than she was back then. But she was on. Was she on Growing Pains? Oh no, I can't remember.
Anyway.
Yeah, way off topic. Anyway, and as far as news though, at that point, what was on television as far as who was president? It would have been Bush. It would have been the first
Yeah.
Bush I remember seeing when the Gulf War broke out.
Oh yeah, I remember that for sure. Yeah.
I didn't really have an opinion. I think during those years I was saying, well, what's a Republican and what's a Democrat? Really, the whole time I didn't really choose one. I'd ask my dad, what are we? And he'd say, well, we were raised Republican. That's pretty much what we identify with.
Mm-hmm.
But it wasn't like, didn't believe that strongly in it. I don't recall my parents talking about being Republicans or Democrats very much. I'd imagine it's probably different growing up now. You probably hear a lot more about being a Republican or a Democrat.
Yeah, I think identity is way bigger nowadays. It was kind of more blended in, and I think it was because there wasn't as much news, and you didn't have access so much. It was, you watch news for an hour at night, and then there was no 24/7 social media, so it was it was a one-time thing. It didn't consume people. It wasn't
Yeah.
like you would watch it for entertainment. You would watch it. It was just. I don't think it affected people as much, and people just weren't. You couldn't get more news. This was it. You got your hour, and you're done. You were cut off after that.
Yeah. On a note, a little flashback, something I remember. I remember when Reagan, and this would have been probably 1 through 10
Mhm.
that time. I remember when Reagan ran over Mondale. Is that who it was?
You ran over him
Yeah, like
like in a car.
no, like weren't they? Didn't Reagan go against
Oh, he ran against Mondale. Yeah, Walter
and
Mondale.
Mondale just
Yeah.
got crushed like nobody.
Steamroll, baby.
Steamrolled. And I remember that. I remember being at my grandmother's church and seeing that on TV. And for some reason,
It stuck with you.
yeah, it stuck with me. Maybe it's just because I never really seen a politician just get disgraced like
Oh,
that.
yeah.
But I knew that he was embarrassed. Like it was an embarrassing loss for Mondale, and I couldn't tell you his face or anything else. But I remember that. Anyway, I was off topic. But yeah, what about you? 10 through 20. What were you consuming?
Absolutely nothing. I was consuming a little bit of MTV, and that's about it. And like you said, the big things, I do remember Ronald Reagan, but it was not in the context of Mondale. I remember Reagan, and then I remember just images of blue jean jackets and American flags, and
Bruce Springsteen's ass.
yeah, Bruce Springsteen's ass, and then we're killing the commies. We are just crushing the commies.
Remember that.
Crushing the commies. That was a big theme growing up for me.
Communists were bad.
Oh yeah, commies were bad. Like they were. That's why we had to fight all these wars. It was for the commies. The commies were taking over. We gotta fight them. No matter where they go, we're gonna.
That's right.
We're gonna get in there and get them. That actually comes into play later to the present when I recognized the same. We got to get the commies. It just didn't fly with me because I was inoculated. I was vaccinated against the commies because I heard the commies getting us for 10 years, and I was like, the commies never fucking get us.
Yeah, it was scary, but nothing really ever happened.
Yeah, nothing ever happened here. I would see stuff on the news, or it was just a big letdown for the commies ever coming. It was Red Dawn, but Red Dawn never came.
Oh yeah, Red Dawn. I remember Red Dawn. That was a freaky show.
Yeah, where the commies invaded us and took over the country.
Yeah, and then at the same time, like Rocky and was going against the Russians.
Yeah, that's right. Well, it's funny when we think back to news, we really think of icons, and we don't think of news. We remember an idea or a story, and that's when we think about it. It's not really accurate. It's more movies. It's like the movies.
Yeah, something I remember from my younger years too, probably around the 10 mark, was, what was the first war you ever remember being in?
Gulf War.
Do you remember Gaddafi? Do you remember hearing about Gaddafi when there was?
Oh, the Lockerbie bombing, I think, or some bombing, some airplane bombing in Gaddafi. I do remember it, but vaguely, not really.
Yeah, it was a long time ago, and I remember people playing night games. And in night games, they this older kid, and he'd have all these younger kids over to run around, and him being like, "Oh, we're gonna go to war. Gaddafi is coming to get you." Like, it kind of freaked us out.
Sure.
On a side note, I remember he took us to the rope swing, and at the rope swing, he talked his little sister into showing all of us her goods.
That is memorable. That's probably why you're sparking memories now. You're associating Gaddafi with some young girl's goods. Your first goods of the time you saw some goods. You have to think about Muammar Gaddafi, which I'm sorry, John. That sounds more dramatic than my first experience.
Well, that's kind of fun when we start thinking these memories. Is who knows what we'll pull up.
It's true.
When was the first time you saw a vagina?
Oh, first vagina. First. Well, I saw one when I was in like 5th grade, but
where did you see it?
I was making out with this girl
Nice.
in a tree. I know, and
In a tree,
like a tree fort. And I was pulling her pants out, and I looked, and it was like, whoa, it's a big deal.
Clean shaven?
Yeah, she's like freaking 5th grade. It's like.
Sorry,
it was
that wasn't too far. We'll edit that out for sure.
It was like, whatever. It was not.
Was it cool?
Yeah, it was cool, but it wasn't. It wasn't like an adult thing. It was like a kid thing. You're just messing around.
I hit a dry spell in the 5th grade. That lasted the 6th, 7th, and 8th grade.
My dry spell went from the 5th grade to probably the 12th grade. So, not the 12th, the 10th grade. So, I went a long time in between.
Yeah.
And let me tell you what, things that changed quite a bit in those 5 grades. Things changed a lot from my first memories.
Yeah. Like in the 3rd grade, I remember having this girl come over, and I played her this record. I had this little like Tinker Tonk record. What are they called? Yeah, it may have even been.
John, you might associate music with ladies now.
That could be
I
it.
think so. Like that's
Because I think I played her a record, and then I had her show me her son. She sunned me, and she was hot. I mean, I don't think she's hot now, but I remember it being like,
sure.
like she was the hottest girl in my grade.
It's a very big deal.
Doctor's daughter. No kid, not lying. Doctor's daughter.
That's a big deal.
It was pretty cool.
All right, how much battery life we got left in this thing?
Oh, it's down to 10%. So now
Let's
we
go to
pretty
the
much
next.
looked at the 10 to the 20 in a nutshell.
Uh-huh.
We looked at it as pretty much, we remember our news coming from depictions of Russians
Yeah,
on television.
but not like a formality. It's still just ideas or part of the culture, I suppose. It's part of the culture. It's not really a factual based or storyline. It's just part of the culture. So now 20 to 30, John,
20 to 30. Well, I kind of,
or even 20 to now.
Well,
What was
let's.
the big
I'm going to
parts?
break it down a little bit less. So
Okay.
20 to 25, I had a friend who read the newspaper a lot and liked news, and he would be like, "Man, why don't you ever watch the news?" And I was like, "I don't like the news. It bugs me. Like, anytime I read the news, it's just I didn't really like it.
Yeah.
You know, like what? I'd rather be entertained than be
Yeah.
freaked out." And so, what about 20 to 25 to you?
Same. There wasn't really much change until I was older. I would say I had my views, but I never really looked into them. I didn't do any.
So
It was
that's
the
from
same.
20
I
to
was
30?
just 20 to 30. I would say I was just bloviating about. Everything I got was just culturally. Nothing was conscious. Where I thought, oh, this is this is who I fit in with the narrative. This is, I would always stick to the same people. Like at work, I'd listen to talk radio, or I'd listen to. I didn't really watch the news or care too much about it.
And who was president from 20? So that would have been probably George W.
One of the Bushes. It seems like there was Bush or Clinton.
Well, yeah, it would have been Clinton and Bush probably.
Yeah, Clinton and Bush.
See, because when I was 25, that's when I went to college.
Oh yeah.
Went to college, and then I started to watch a little bit more news, but not a lot. But I was in public relations, so they was kind of cramming that down our throats. And I started paying a little bit more attention. I remember all of a sudden having an opinion on George W. Bush, more or less because in one of my classes I got taught about climate change. And with climate change, it was really, we're all going to die. And I was like, why did I go to college? Just so I could learn that we're all going to die. So, and then that was kind of my brain is all of a sudden I'm thinking, wait a second, we're all heating up the planet, we're all going to die. Which sucked a little bit.
Totally.
Yeah, like
Sounds like all the news experiences so far, John, have been negative, which I can't disagree with at all.
I'm not
You think
gonna
they would have some
validate
positive-
that, and I'm not
you
gonna
think there could
validate
be
it because
some positive news.
I
in
enjoyed those 10 to 20 years when the Russians were depicted as big Russians. Big Russians that fought and fell from the
You know
sky.
why? Because I remember the Nintendo game Contras. It was one of
Yeah.
the best games ever. You were one of the Contras down in South America, getting the bad guys, killing the commies.
Who were you afraid of from 10 to 20?
Nobody, because we always won. We always beat the
that's
commies at
actually
their
true.
game. So I was like, what are you gonna do? Go against America? I don't think so.
And the 20s or 30s was when the kind of the fall of communism, when they were all just vodka drinking.
Yeah. I think by then we had crushed them. We were on to some more evildoers in the Middle East.
Oh yeah, there were the Middle East. Because you know what's funny too is I remember seeing a thing. It must have been between 20 and 30 when they talked about the Russians and how since the fall of communism, 2/3 of them were alcoholics and they all had fetal alcohol syndrome. So they were all. I just thought all Russians were retarded at that point.
I'm pretty sure they are, John.
Well, whatever, man. Because Instagram recently has exposed that Russian chicks are hot.